Hey, this is a video for 6.7, Energy from Biomass. So go ahead and check out the overview and set up your guided notes. So when we are discussing biomass, we're really referring to organic material that was once alive, and I don't mean alive millions of years ago, I mean relatively recent. And biomass is often said to be carbon neutral, and that's because the carbon dioxide that is being added to the atmosphere following its combustion was recently in an organic form. And then the carbon dioxide that enters the atmosphere will be readily taken in by a living organism like a plant. So we use this often to describe biomass, and it all has to do with modern carbon versus ancient carbon. So modern carbon is like what I just explained. Modern carbon has recently been in one of the reservoirs, like in the atmosphere or in the open ocean. So we have the dissolved carbon dioxide, which is in the form of carbonic acid in the ocean or other bodies of water. We have the CO2 in the atmosphere. We have glucose and other organic molecules like cellulose or anything that is derived from these starchy materials. This is all an example of modern carbon. So this carbon readily cycles between these different forms. So there's actually no net increase to carbon dioxide. Now, when we're talking about ancient carbon, that's carbon that's been locked away for a long time. So we have calcium carbonate in the shells of organisms, marine organisms. When they die, they sink to the bottom of the ocean, and over time they'll form limestone or other sedimentary rocks. We also have methane that has been locked away for thousands of years in permafrost. So this carbon has not recently been in the atmosphere. And then we also have the carbon containing compounds that are in fossil fuels and other fossilized organisms. So it's this ancient carbon that we really want to watch out for, and that's the carbon that's going to increase our atmospheric carbon dioxide. But the modern carbon is what we're referring to when we're mentioning biomass. So there are some impacts from combustion of biomass. For starters, it's usually one of the reasons that we would be burning it is for home energy, and that is for cooking and for heating our homes. I said this in the past, but I was raised with a wood burning stove, and we went out and chopped wood every fall, and that's what we burned to heat our home in northern Minnesota. Other countries, especially developing nations, will use wood or manure for home cooking. Now, there are a lot of pollutants, and this is because of its combustion, and that can lead to respiratory illnesses because of this particulate matter, all of this soot and these ashes that become airborne, and we breathe them in and they coat our respiratory system. There's also indoor hypoxia because of the carbon monoxide. So carbon monoxide is formed during the incomplete combustion of organic material. The formula is CO. But carbon monoxide binds to our hemoglobin. So it prevents our bodies from really processing the oxygen in the proper way. So hemoglobin is a protein that's on our red blood cells. So if we breathe in carbon monoxide, we cannot bind oxygen to the hemoglobin. So we'll end up suffocating. Another thing is we can get acid precipitation, and that is from the sulfur dioxide. We can get photochemical smog from the nitrogen oxides. These are going to be mentioned in our next unit. We can also have, with this biomass, the carbon is neutral because it is modern carbon, as I mentioned. And it is also inexpensive, and that's because it is readily available. So we will also be destroying habitats in order to obtain and distribute this carbon. So because it's so readily available, we can easily cut it down, and this can contribute to habitat destruction, which will then eventually lead to biodiversity loss. So biofuels is more complex than just simple biomass. So biofuel, I'll describe it in a second, but some countries that are leading the world in biofuel production are the United States, Brazil, Indonesia, China, and Germany. So this is information from 2022, and this is obtained from Our World in Data, the website that I had previously mentioned. So one way we can use biomass is to produce ethanol, and typically we'd be using plants like corn or sugarcane. So what happens is the sun hits the chloroplasts along with carbon dioxide and water, and this is the raw materials for photosynthesis. They will produce glucose, and glucose is added to specific enzymes, and it will produce ethanol. Ethanol is basically alcohol. It's the alcohol that's in beer and all of the spirits that people consume. This is pretty much how wine is made. But ethanol is then added to gasoline to give it a longer life and to allow it to properly function in the internal combustion engines. So really what you really should know from this is that we can produce ethanol from the glucose that is produced from different plant crops. And then biodiesel is taking it a step further. Biodiesel is often made from palm oil and also from specific photosynthetic algae. So it kind of starts out the same way. We have the sun, we have the chloroplasts, we need carbon dioxide and water, but this will produce specific oils, and these oils are then extracted from the plants and further refined in order to produce biodiesel. And biodiesel is similar to gasoline in that it serves as a fuel source. Now, both of these are very beneficial because they are a source of energy. The problem is that we have a huge input of energy and we're only getting a tiny bit of output of energy. So whereas like coal, you only had to, put a little bit of energy into it to dig it up, you got a lot of energy out of it. There is so much production involved in biodiesel and ethanol that we really haven't made it worthwhile yet. We don't have the technology. We do have the technology to produce it, but it is still energy intensive. So what I would like you to do is respond to this check for understanding. And finally, for our FRQ practice, I would like you to describe the connection between biomass combustion and atmospheric CO2 concentration. I hope that this video is informative. I thank you for your attention, and I will see you soon.